Sounds good.
Cool.
Do you guys want to do your?
Sure, we can start. We're going to just go around the room and introduce yourself, and if you work in campus, let us know your presentation. I'll start. Kathleen Liu, I work here in Central IT as part of our platform services team.
I'm Stephen Collins from the College of Engineering.
I'm Jen Peru, College Engineering and UCS. Hi, this is Stephen from the School of Public Health.
Tina Magnus, and I'm helping trust in art history.
Matthew Sun, student of Paris Communications.
I'm Anna Gastowitz, also in Central IT on the Web Platform Services team. Caroline Gruden, also Central IST Web Platform.
And Quinn Dombrowski in Research IT in the Office of the CIO, and I mostly work on digital humanities there. So today's presentation is going to be an assortment of thoughts and modules that relate to users and kind of permissions and access issues. So hopefully you won't have heard of all these modules, and you might find them somewhat useful depending on your site's needs. Probably one of the easiest ones to start with here is the real name module. And this is important if you have users who log in and their name gets displayed somewhere on the site. So if you have users contributing blog posts and you want to have the author of a blog post be attributed with their full name, this is actually not that easy to do out of the box, because what Drupal wants to do is put their username. And especially if they're logging in using CAS, that's not necessarily what they would like their name represented as. So the real name module comes in very handy for this. It's a pretty simple, straightforward module. I'll show you how to configure it here. We will add it to a site. Modules. Right, let's install this one. Looks like I've already installed it. Fabulous. So if you go over here, I believe it's under. Oh, we'll go to the modules page and find it here. Turns out that it is installed but not enabled, so we'll enable it here. And now we'll go to the configure link for real name, which I believe should be under people real name, but we'll see when we get there. Click configure. And the real name pattern there, you can browse. Looks like I probably need token installed for this to really work. So let's go to modules. Module. Token. So copy this link, go back and enable this. All right. So we do have tokens installed. All right, so what you can do here is go to the user's profile. If you go to configure people account settings and manage fields here, you can add a field for user name, and we'll just call this a text field. We'll save. 255, it should be fine. And we can say this can be a required field and make it display on the user registration form. So that way when people register for the site, or when you register people for the site, you have to fill this in with the full real name of the person, which will appear on blog post by that person, or something to that effect. And you save this, and from here we can go to real name. So this is under configuration people real name, and if you browse available tokens, what we want is the username field. Unlike the user colon name, we want the field, which is the one that we created here. So we'll click on this field username. We'll save the configuration. And what this will do is this will automatically swap out the username which Drupal uses, as the author, with the value of that field, so the full username. So let's create an article. Say this is test article, test content, and we'll save. So you see that it's still using my username here, and that should be because I never actually filled in that value for my account, since my account was created before that field was required. But if we go and edit my account, and we'll say username, and we save this, close that, and then go back. Oh, let's go this way. Go back to content, the test article. Oh, you can see right here too that my name has been updated to the actual name, and it also appears on the content overview page with the real name. So basically, all the places where the username would show up, the full name appears, and everyone's happy. Any questions on real name? Great. Then on to the exciting world of Profile 2. So as we saw just there, in terms of adding the field to the user profile, you can add fields to Drupal's built-in user profiles. That's all well and good. But sometimes you want to have more access control over fields in a profile than just having everything public. And if you're assigning fields directly to the user profiles in Drupal, all those fields are public and there's no way around it. But for instance, you might want to have people add in information about their phone number or their mailing address or stuff that's useful for your organization kind of internally, but you don't want just sort of splayed out on the internet for anyone to see. And for that, you can't just add the fields to their profile. You have to do something a little bit different. And one of the modules for doing that is called Profile 2. So let's install and enable this guy. It's another site where I use it. Here we go. All right, so we'll enable it. And if you haven't seen this before, the interface I'm using on the modules page is called Module Filter. And it's really useful insofar as it makes it a lot easier to actually find the modules that you're looking for without doing Control F and then realizing that it's a dependency for 8 other things, and you have to keep hitting enter to find the actual list of it. If you search via the filter list, it will only pull up the module kind of as you expect it to. So we'll say Profile 2. And there it is. So we'll turn that on, and we will save this. You can also filter by different categories. You can show new and recently installed modules, and it also provides some filtering options for the permissions page, which is also kind of useful. So we've enabled Profile 2. It says main profile has been created and assigned to all users. Go to Profile Types to add fields or configure further profile types. So you can actually, using Profile 2, add multiple different profiles to a user account. Maybe different roles will have different profiles. You could have a profile for faculty and a different profile for students or things like that. You can kind of create these multiple different profiles and then associate them with accounts in different ways. So let's go to Manage Fields, and we'll add a field called phone number. And we want this to be a text field, and we'll save it. Hi. Let's say phone number, sure. And then, all right, yeah, that's fine. Save that. And we'll want address. Like that too. So now let's take a look at what my profile looks like. When I edit it, there's still all of the kind of stuff that I created as part of the default Drupal user profile thing here. There's the username that I added, plus kind of all this administrative stuff. The picture, the password, the email address. I can assign these roles because I myself am an admin. But you'll also notice up here there's this main profile. And every additional profile that you create will kind of add a new tab up at the top. So if we click on main profile, you can see these fields that we added. All right. So you can add in the fields that you associated with this profile. So you have the profile now as this distinct thing, but it doesn't by itself provide any degree of access control on that. So what we need to do to fix that is, of course, in true Drupal style, we're going to add another module. So let's go to field permissions, which enables field level permissions on any entity. So that would include things like profiles, users, and so forth. So let's add this module. All right, we'll install it, and we will enable it. Search for field permissions. All right, turn that on, and we will save. All right, so now we're going to go to configure. And by this shows all the different fields on the site along with the permission status. So by default, all fields are public, kind of as they were before we installed the module. So you could, click on this to go to the content type where that exists. We'll do that over here with, where is that? Here we are, phone number and main profile. So click on main profile, which will take us to that field within the main profile. We could also have gotten there just by going to structure, profile types, main profile. We'll go to manage fields, and we'll go to phone number, and we'll just hit edit it. And this field permissions module just adds a new set of permissions here down at the bottom. So public, here is the default. Private, so this is only author and administrators can edit and view. So that actually is basically just what we're looking for with this particular case. So the user can add that information, and anyone with the admin set of permissions can view it, but no one else can see it and no one else can edit it. You can also get really specific with these custom permissions. So for any user or for any role on the site, you can say, okay, who can create their own value, edit their own value, edit anyone's value, view their own value, or view anyone's value. So you can use this to do things like, for instance, if you as an organization want to include sort of private internal notes about the person that you don't necessarily want the person to see, you could have a notes field and make it so that only the administrator or only some group of users can add and view notes about within that field. And so even the user who it's associated with wouldn't be able to see it. So you can get pretty specific that way. And that really applies to any field in any content type on the site, as well as these profiles. Any questions about field permissions? Yeah.
So field permissions, you did add a main profile, but you don't have to do that to use field permissions. Is that right?
Right. So the main profile is so you can use field permissions on a user account, because field permissions doesn't work with just like fields being added directly to the user profile. Like if you were to go to like configuration people.
That seems odd. Like a field is a field is a field, right?
Is the username in there? Maybe it does do that now. I thought there was something. All right, let's go back to the modules. I could be mistaken there, which would be fabulous. Because one fewer module, I would not complain about. Field permissions. You're right, that is attached directly to the user, and it looks like you can do that. So wonderful, thank you. I have learned something today, and you can now have granular permissions without having to use profile 2.
So what are the uses where you can use profile 2?
I think if you want to kind of be able to have separate profiles and like sort of separate out your account settings from your like user info. I mean, I think the fact that you can do this permission level stuff as part of the main account, like certainly means that I may need to rework a couple sites now, because that's precisely why I set it up this way. But I think if you wanted sort of to be able to provide these like distinct profiles without setting up something like Display Suite to be able to sort of offer tabs that way, you could use it. Any other questions on that one? So another module that provides a little bit more granularity in permissions for content is this content access module. So you can then manage permissions for content types by role and author. Let's install that one and take a look. All right. All right, so once you turn on content access, it does sort of fundamentally change the access permissions table on Drupal, so you need to rebuild the permissions link here. And if you don't do that, it'll continue to bug you on every admin page until you do it, so it's best to just give in promptly and rebuild the content access table. Well, let's go over to a content type. And you'll see now, even looking at this, that there's an access control tab. And this gives you a lot more granularity here with these role-based access controls, viewing any, viewing your own, editing any, editing your own, deleting and deleting your own. And then you can also enable node access controls for every node of this content type. So you can make it that some nodes are viewable by some groups of people and other nodes are viewable by other groups of people. If you do this, we'll hit submit, and then it rebuilds the permissions. So if we go then into recipes, at the bottom, there should be.
I think it's a tab.
Is it a tab? Ah, thank you. There you go. So you can like fill out this whole table with regard to this specific node and have it have different permissions from all the other nodes of its content type. So that could be handy. Questions about that one?
Does that add a lot of performance issues for like if you're a logged in user and there's a lot of different access controls to sort through? Like you have the overall, content type access control and then node by node, or do you find it difficult? Or
I've never. It's not been that noticeable for me, but I haven't run it on a large site. I would guess it probably would cause a performance hit, but yeah, I've never had a use case where I needed it, where there was a lot of stuff on there. All right, so we've looked at content access and field permissions. Here's another like small, silly module that solved a major need for me on a couple sites recently, where we have a couple people on a couple of projects that I'm working on who draft nodes and then sort of save them in an unpublished state, and then other people go in and review them and then publish them. And we realized one day when I, as the admin user, was the only one who could actually see these unpublished nodes, that with all of its hundreds and hundreds of granular access permission options, there wasn't actually one for view unpublished nodes. You can see your own unpublished nodes, and like the Uber admin can see things, but for people in the middle, they can't see their colleagues' unpublished nodes, and that can be a problem. So there are modules like workflow that you can use to like craft these elaborate workflows about who's allowed to approve what and so forth. But if you just need to see like someone else's unpublished node so you can edit it and give them feedback or whatnot, the view unpublished module is the way to do it. So just to demo this one, we will install that. And we will enable it. And of course, content access permissions need to be rebuilt. We'll rebuild those. And then we'll go over to the permissions thing. And this is the other thing that I mentioned that the module filter does. It actually will provide this nice little filter on the permissions page as well. So that's kind of nice. Let's see. Here we go. View unpublished. So you can do view any unpublished content or do it on a content by content type basis. And it's small and it's simple and it does the job. And it's great that way. So then the other module that I've come across that I'll confess I haven't spent a lot of time trying out yet, so I'm not sure how well it works, but I was heartened to discover that it does exist, is this node access user reference. And this I've seen as a suggestion as a way to try to address the Drupal single author issue. So for those of you who haven't run into this, there's a lot of permissions that Drupal associates with the author of a node. So basically the person who first saved the node. And this can be an issue for situations where you have a group of people who need to be able to edit a node. Maybe it's like a group project or something like that. And you don't want like a single person to have all the permissions. And on the flip side, you don't want to sort of open it up to just anyone to be able to edit nodes of that content type. You want to limit it to a set of people that's bigger than one, but smaller than necessarily like an entire roll of people. So in principle, at least, this node access user reference module lets you use the user reference field or an entity reference field to grant all the people who are referenced in that way the equivalent of the author permissions, or for that matter, you can kind of be more specific about which permissions you grant to those sets of people. If you have kind of more defined sets of people, like if you have a group of people in your team who always do the editing for content, in those cases it might be easier to set up a role for that and sort of grant the role permissions. But if you have like ad hoc groups, like student groups for a project or something, this node access user reference seems like it could be the hot ticket to sort of managing that permission situation. Any questions on that one? In that case, any questions sort of in general? I might add, it sounds like everyone here is UCB affiliated, so every Monday now from 12 to 1:30 when BDUG isn't being held, I'm here in this room, same time, same place, basically for an open Drupal working session time. So if you have a project that you're working on and you have questions or issues that come up, or if you just want to work on your project in a place where you can ask questions as you think of them, I'm here. Please feel free to show up. I do impromptu performances on any questions that people come up with along the way, and it's just kind of an open work time, responding to whatever situations people are having. Matthew.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
We have one website with whoever who created the nodes has their name attached, username attached to that, and when you read it, view the website, it doesn't show. But when you search on the search result, it shows who created that. How
Mm-hmm.
can we get rid of that?
I know the answer.
Yeah.
The search result is generated by a template.php. So
Okay.
it's like search-result, not plural, .tbl.php. And so if you copy that into your theme and change it so that you can change it so it does not put those.
Oh, okay.
Can you use Display Suite to do the same thing?
Probably, but if you're not using Display Suite already,
Yeah.
then why? And you might also, if you're using Panoply or whatever, then the Panoply search, of course, overrides that whole thing and it creates its own little search results snippet. So
Okay.
yeah, but for the least amount of extra code, just add that template to your theme and change it however you want.
Okay, great, thanks.
And I actually have a question.
Yeah.
So the thing that you're doing with the real name, that can also be done with CAS attributes. Am I right? Because that's how UC Berkeley CAS does it.
The thing is, though, that pulls in what's in the directory, and sometimes people have put kind of funky stuff in the directory.
Yeah.
And like the better answer would be like update your directory anyway so it doesn't look so weird.
Sure.
But like some people have their like last name all in caps and then all the degrees they've ever gotten and like.
That's actually the default. It's the default.
Yeah.
Campus development database or something.
Well, you know the reason that last name is in all caps, it's like an international standard because you can't always tell what the first name and the last name are.
Have you created the names?
Yeah. So the one that's in all caps is the surname. But
Which looks really fabulous. So I mean on our site anyways, like we let people define in their own profile like what they want their name to look like and sort of wash our hands of it. Yeah. Any other general Drupal questions or issues?
Have you ever used, it's actually access control related, have you ever used Workbench access to control access by site section or hierarchy rather than by role?
I know of the like Workbench like suite of things, but like I've always managed to avoid having to like actually go there and use it. Like my problem stopped like just short of like where it seemed worth it. So I admit I don't have any hands-on experience with it. Have you used it to much success? Or?
I haven't, but one of our significant needs because of the way authorship is distributed amongst many people is to control who can edit which sections of the site. It's not something Drupal wishes to do. So from what I've found so far, that sounds like the most promising route, but I haven't gone down it.
By sections, do you mean like parent, like children type pages, or?
For example, this is for the College of Engineering site. We've got a giving section, and there are authors, editors within the fundraising group who ought to be able to edit that content, but I don't really want them editing the engineering student services section because they decide they'd like something different. And on like that. We've got a number of discrete groups, all of whom are responsible for a small part of the site, but not for other pieces.
And they're not sort of naturally broken up into like a content type per thing?
Same content type throughout.
Yeah.
That's really common, I think, on a departmental site. If the department is relatively big, we're going to have the same issue. Eeks is just starting a project that we expect will probably the site. And once we do, we're going to need something like this to manage it.
So there's another one, taxonomy access control, that
But then you have to tag every page.
you do, yeah. So I mean, you could maybe come up with something fancy with rules with that, where like if it has giving in the title automatically apply,
Or in the URL.
or you could probably.
By path or by so when you were saying parents and children, that would be by menu, but there might also be a way to do it by path. Does that sound
I
think
wonder.
that's what Workbench winds up doing.
Yeah.
And they've already built it for you. Sure, you have to figure it out. But they come with a lot of other overhead that I don't know whether I need to.
Yeah, that's always been my case with like Workbench, where like I can always sort of figure something out that seems a little bit more lightweight than like the whole thing. But if it's got all the kinks worked out and like it does what you need and like it might be useful in other ways, like it might be worth going with that for it. Yeah, it's a way to do it. Other questions or thoughts? General Drupal problems? What modules made you most mad this week? Come on. Angry stories with modules.
How about feeds? If you import a database, where and you do it correctly, where does it show up? Is it
So
content?
what it should be doing, if you're like importing from a CSV,
Yeah.
is it's going to create a bunch of nodes of the particular content type that you've imported. So how it would show up would be you would go to content, and it would list, you know, all hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of the things that you've created right there.
So it can be a little wacky to set up. I think, and correct me if you work with these probably.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So by default, it's biased in favor of you have an RSS feed that you will be pulling every 30 minutes for content, and that's kind of the way it makes it most easy to do. But if you're using it to, like, I have a CSV that I'm going to import once, then you set up your import a little differently. So that might cause some confusion there. Like, do you want to attach it to a node form? I'm like, I never know. You know,
Yeah.
when it says, do you want to attach this to a type of node? I'm like, I don't know why I would do that. Like, maybe if the RS feed was supposed to create children of that node.
Yeah, so when you attach it to a content type is basically exactly in that use case you described, where like you want to pull in RSS feeds from like 3 different sites. So you create a content type that's called like RSS feed and doesn't have anything in it. Maybe it has the title of the RSS feed or something, or a title where you can put the name of like the organization that's providing the RSS feed, and leave everything else blank. There's like a body field that you can leave if you want or not. And what you do is you attach the feed to the to that particular content type. And what it does is when you create that content type, feeds will provide you with a URL field where you plop in the RSS feed URL. And then when you hit submit, what it does is it then like creates a bunch of probably a different content type with the items of that RSS feed that you specified.
So, but you don't have to do that way. There are other ways to accomplish
You shouldn't do it that way in most cases,
Okay.
even though that's the easiest way to do it. In most cases, you say, you know, no, don't attach to a content type. Here, let me pull up. Here we go. Here's feeds. All right, so we'll add an importer here. And demo importer. So what you should do here is have it be the use a standalone form, and then periodic import you can just turn off because this is going to be a one-time import. You have a CSV file, you want it on the site, you're going to do it once, and you're done. So we'll say save. We can have our fetcher be file upload if it's a CSV file that you have on your computer, or you can use the HTTP fetcher, doesn't really matter. Under parser, we change it to CSV parser. Save it. And then under processor, we say we're going to want to create nodes. You can also create users or taxonomies that way, and this changes the options of kind of how you do your mapping between your CSV and your.
Is it possible to do this to create users and look at comment?
What would your feed be? I mean, what would your incoming feed be? Like
There's a
an LDAP?
CSV list of.
Oh, CSV of like user IDs.
Names with UIDs.
Yep.
So if you wanted to create a bunch of users that had to be counted up.
Yeah. Then you
Choose user.
Yeah, then you just have to set it up in your mapping so that you already have CAS set up and you have the CAS username field. Then you just map that with the to the UID. That would be
So if you have
yeah.
this node processor, every record is a node.
Yeah. Yep. And then same thing on these. If you wanted to import a bunch of taxonomy terms, every record would be a taxonomy term, or users, every record would be a user.
And then you go to use, or you create a block to say display all these records in this format?
Yeah, so like if you were to basically have a table in the CSV and you want a table in Drupal on the other side, you import all of that, and then once you've imported all your content and sort of mapped it all to the fields, then go into views to create a table view using each of the fields as a column.
Show the mappings.
Yeah, so, well, then there's also the settings. So this bundle here is like, this is where the content type is that you choose that you're going to map things to. So here is where you say, all right, this is the content type that like I want it to be creating nodes of. You can choose, like, if you think you may need to like run this multiple times, you can choose whether or not to update existing nodes, replacing them, or not to replace them. Probably either replacing or updating makes sense. Otherwise, you'll end up with a bunch of duplicate nodes if you have to run it again. We'll say plain text. The author, you might want to assign this to an actual author rather than anonymous. If you do choose anonymous, you might want to uncheck authorize, because chances are you've set it up so that anonymous users can't be like creating content willy-nilly on your site. So you can do it that way. Expire nodes, never. Again, never is the right answer if you're just importing content and you want content on your site. This expire nodes thing is, you know, like Carolyn said, like it's tailored towards the RSS feed of stuff that's being imported periodically. So we'll save this, and now we're going to go to mapping. This is the fun part. So you can have the source, and this needs to be this needs to precisely be the text of the header row of your CSV. If your CSV doesn't have a header row, then you need to use, I think, numbers corresponding to kind of what position they are, starting from 0. Start counting from 0 with this. Target is where it needs to go into. So if the first column is like username of the author, you would select that as the target, put in whatever the author there, hit save. Then we'll say title, and then we'll choose title. And there are some mappings that can be used as unique. And these use as unique things are the things that it looks for when it's deciding whether it's going to replace or update a node if you run this importer a second time. So we say use unique, update, and then save it. If you have a taxonomy field, you can set it to create new taxonomy terms for, like, if the taxonomy terms don't already exist in your database. But there is a really, really ghastly bug right now, and I can't remember whose bug it is. Only that I have been bitten by this bug, and like the cleanup for it was such a pain in the ass. So if you do this, you need to use the feeds tamper module, and for that specific taxonomy term field, have it strip the white space on either end, and then it should work. And sort of import taxonomy terms and like match them appropriately. The way it works right now is if you have it create new taxonomy terms, if they don't already exist, it won't match terms that have just been created. So every single record that has that new term, new as of when you started the import, it will create a new taxonomy term for it, and you'll end up with like 50 of the thing. So be wise, use feeds tamper and strip out white space from either end.
But if you already have your taxonomy terms created,
then you're fine. Yeah. I think you can have more than one unique thing. I would hope that it's smart about how to evaluate that, but I haven't actually tried it, so I can't vouch for it.
Yeah, I think you can use multiple fields as unique, but if you actually want to concatenate them, then you might have to use feeds tamper. Like if you want to have a bunch of incoming fields and map them to one string.
If you want to map them, yeah, but like, if there's...
If you have two articles with the same title by different authors, you can recognize them as two unique things.
It looks like author, it's not smart enough about counting that as unique. There are some others that, there's like a GUID or a... URL. No, there's, let's see, user ID. I'm pretty sure there's like something other than just title that works out as a unique option. Probably GUID
Yeah.
would.
And then again, that's sort of biased where it's coming from RMSS.
Yeah. But I would hope that it would evaluate them in a smart way, in that it's sort of treating, a node as having to have both conditions to. Yeah.
Is there a read this one but don't save it?
Yes. So there is not in. You have to add. I suppose there's no reason not to add feeds tamper while I'm sitting here. Let's just add feeds tamper. So feeds tamper lets you. No, I didn't want to download that. Lets you create these temporary targets that you can then do stuff with, including, but not limited to, like checking it for validity and throwing it out. So let's go back to our site. There's something that you can use in feeds tamper that like kind of is similar to use unique, I think. Let me take a look here. This is why we install module filter, boys and girls. Yeah. Okay. Save this. Head back over to our feeds importer, demo importer, and we'll go to tamper. So now, for every mapping with an asterisk, because it's not actually for every mapping, but it's for every source field, actually, there is a feeds tamper. If you have a source field that you map to multiple different things, there'll still only be one tamper for it, which is really annoying. So what I've done in that case as a workaround is added a new column to the CSV, just like a blank thing, and then use the feeds tamper to rewrite the value of the thing that I want into there, then have a new feeds tamper for it to like munch it as desired. So that's the workaround there. But you can add a plugin for keyword filter. Oh. List unique makes the elements in a multi-value field unique. Yeah. So what you might. Oh, sorry. Which one?
I'm just saying that the unique filter would be helpful for taxonomy.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So this keyword filter is kind of handy. It's a way that you can throw out results that don't match the filter. So anything that appears in a line together, it must meet all of those requirements for it to work. So if we say, cat, dog, incoming, I guess, authors, because this is sort of like a tamper for a specific input field. Every author must have the word cat and the word dog in it. Otherwise, that record will be thrown out. If you want to do an or, so it must have cat and dog or mouse and chicken, you can sort of list things that way. So every new line is an or, and every kind of line within that is an and. So that's pretty handy. The taxonomy thing that I was warning you about, direly, I believe it's trim. Yeah, so it's trim. It uses white space by default, which is what we want. We want it on both. Add that to your taxonomy field if you're adding in new terms, and you will avert dire consequences. Other Drupal questions on feeds or anything else?
Is there a way on a plain vanilla content type to have a different text format for your summary than for your body text?
Oh, I think.
And or is there a way to limit the HTML tags that a summary field will display without having to suppress all of them?
If you have an answer for that, go for it.
I do. Sort of, because
I should have said without having to rebuild the entire site. I know I could do that by just taking the summary out and rebuilding it, but I don't want to.
if you're displaying it in a view, then when you set up your view and you have a field and it says formatter, you can choose the options are like summary or trimmed, summary, plain text, or default. So if you choose plain text, it will, I think what it actually does is display HTML, which helps.
There's a filter for that, though, right?
There is, but then you can strip HTML tags out back. And so if you do summary or trimmed, it'll use the same text format as the body field is.
Right.
But if you do plain text, and you can also use the rewriting to strip out certain tags and not others. Like sometimes what happens is you'll have a dangling link tag, right, or a dangling bold tag, and if you don't close it, then what happens to the rest of your display? So you can, there are various ways to get around that, but mainly it's when you're displaying it in view, which is mostly when you're displaying summaries anyway. Or, I don't know, is there
So in
custom view mode, maybe? I don't know.
I feel like Display Suite might be able to. Of course, that's my like dark magic answer for anything involving like displaying and content type. Let me just take a look and see if there's Display Suite. I am view modes, comment. Yeah, I mean, in what context would you be like? Is it views that you're trying to display it, or like just like everywhere?
Pretty much everywhere that the summary would be used, which was probably within views, but
Well, also search results, right? Like,
potentially, yeah.
So maybe, and I don't know how much this would get you, is if you have the view modes, so like there's the default view mode, the full view mode, the teaser view mode, then maybe something you can do in the teaser view mode, which is like when you're displaying content.
I think I went looking there and couldn't find that something. Doesn't
Okay.
mean it's not there.
so here's the teaser view mode for dirt. So let's do format. Ahaha.
Yep.
Here we go.
So if you do format plain text and then setting elements.
Let me lose our settings. So if you do summary or trimmed.
Yeah.
All right. So here's So here's.
Filter that you could apply to that.
No, so what you could do again, like this is really going down the rabbit hole of like Display Suite dark magic, but you could create a block or something. You can create a view that displays that like does what Carolyn suggested in terms of like how to like manage the display of the thing, and then make that block available within Display Suite and swap it out for the description, and that would do it.
Sure. That would be complicated.
It wouldn't be that bad.
But so if you're already using a view to display it, then you should have everything you need in the rewriting and the field formatting.
But
If you're using a view and displaying it as fields and not as content, you should have everything you need.
I'll be looking at that, but I'll have that.
Okay. So with the changing the text format, changing the output text format, and then going under the rewrite options and saying strip this, strip that, you should have.
if you want to like bring the example site like next week to the working group, like I can sit down with you and we can try to actually work through it if that'd be helpful. Anything else for today? Yeah.
I'd like to schedule a node to publish at a certain time. And while I played around with the scheduler module, it's still, no matter what time I set, it will only publish when the frog runs. So I can only do it every 3 hours, I think is the smallest.
There's got to be a module that changes. I've heard of. I was recently looking at this. Shoot, I can remember what it was called. There's like a cron configuration module that like lets you even like specify for different cron jobs how frequently they run and sort of run them at different frequencies.
Yeah, like if you schedule a cron, then I think that would fix it.
Yeah, so I mean, what's that thing called? Drupal. If you give me your email address, I will dig through my browser history and find it and email it to you. It's not coming to mind at the moment. Any other questions for this time round?
No, we can wrap up the session a little early and give you all back your time. Thanks to Quinn for
Yeah.
And then April is going to be another working group meeting?
Yeah, so I think our next session we're going to use as a working group session, and we'll all try to be there. So please, if you have additional things you want to bring for discussion and or group collaboration, please do that, and we'll send an announcement for the April session.
So break stuff in the notes, bring it in.
Yep.
Break it down. Cool.
Yeah.
Is Brooks